Hi guys, good afternoon and welcome to Money Control. I'm Karunya Rao. With me is Manisha Gupta. We're here to give you the latest on commodities basket. Up until now, last few days, we've been talking about how crude oil prices have been retreating. But once again, they're witnessing a comeback of sorts. Can we call it comeback or is it too premature?
With crude oil prices, you just don't know. I've been talking to so many people, Karunya, and they tell us only God knows where crude is headed because there are so many scenarios people are working with. Interestingly, Bank of America came out with a scenario saying that in 2022 and 23, they're looking at an average of crude oil prices at $102 a barrel. Now, that actually gives you a huge range, but they also say that if there is a recession, crude is going down to 75. And if there are more sanctions on Russia, crude is going up to $150 a barrel. So it's an if and but working with crude oil prices. But yes, we have seen a rebound come in, and the last 3 days have seen $5 of a jump up come back in case of the crude oil prices. The latest trigger clearly has been the G7 meeting, which says that there could be a sixth round of sanctions coming in on Russia, and that would be on the shipping part of it. So logistics, freight, insurance, and shipping could be hit, and they want to curb or put a cap on the kind of exports that Russia can do and the prices of it as well. But the interesting thing here is that it actually impacts the importing countries like us, we and China. It doesn't really bother many of these G7 countries. So G7 coming out and putting those caps and sanctions doesn't do much for them except increasing prices because of the sentiment, but it does impact us in a big way.
But in a two-pronged scenario, which you're saying on one hand, there's a very high chance of recession, wherein the crude oil are likely to go down to $70. At the same time, these dynamic situations with respect to Russia-Ukraine conflict and others reacting to that as well. Is there a broad range that we can look at for this year? Anything that analysts are pointing to?
So one thing that most people are very clear about when it comes to crude, and that is that we're not looking at prices way much below $100 a barrel. Almost every banker or brokerage is talking about $100 barrel plus kind of level. If there is a recession, if there is a demand destruction, but the chances are really low, right? Because the central banks would be watching out for the fact that they do hike interest rates, but they do not let their economies go into recession. And then there is demand standing ready. There are supply concerns, rest, but the markets really are looking at the demand concerns right now. But with Chinese markets opening right now, and even at these higher crude prices, the demand really hasn't gone down in India or Europe or US for that matter. So those would be supportive factors. So $100 a barrel of an average as a support price is something that we can absolutely work with.
How's the supply situation right now? And with these sanctions, how could it pan out?
So supply, when you look at that in sense of global inventories, is on the lower side. When you look at the US inventories, almost everything in sense of crude and petroleum products is 10 to 15% below the 5-year average. When you look at the US Strategic Petroleum Reserve, that is the lowest since 1987. That is because the US has been selling crude via the Petroleum Strategic Reserve. When you look at OPEC and allies, they perhaps have really maxed out on their production as well. You have Libya, Ecuador, which have social unrest going on. So the supplies from there will not increase. It only is about Saudi Arabia and UAE which can increase production. And you will want to watch out on how much production can they talk about when they meet on 30th of June. So much will depend on what kind of statements they come out with as well.
And finally, is it time for crude consumers to sort of breathe in a sigh of relief? Has the worst of crude oil surge over? Can they now live their lives peacefully when it comes to paint companies, tire companies? A lot of FMCG and other consumer discretionary goods also use many of these crude derivatives. So good news for them. Is the worst over?
So when the COVID started and when the war came in, the top theme that markets were conversing was availability, and then came affordability. So right now you really are playing between the two of these. What we do understand is that when it comes to availability of crude and fertilizers, and as you mentioned, there are various other sectors as well which are looking at crude, which you at one point in time thought that there would be a lack of availability. Now you are looking at fertilizers coming in as well. You're looking at crude coming in as well, even at a cheaper rate, at a discount from even Russia for that matter. So affordability is going to be a bit of a concern. You still are looking at higher crude oil prices. Markets are getting adjusted to these higher prices. Availability is an issue which really seems to be getting sorted.
Okay, so let's see how it pans out, not plays out, but how it pans out. But for now, definitely, there's been a short surge in uptick rather in crude oil prices. Let's see where it takes us. But good times ahead? What's the likelihood for
Oh,
crude?
I would be
Okay,
very.
it's totally uncertain, so we're not going to give any commentary on that. It's for you to decide what you want to do. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow with more fresh updates on commodities.